Welcome back to the Authority X Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht. And in my book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, I talk about how your personal brand is really about service and human connection. It's about moving from being a service provider to a trusted partner. Today's guest is someone who has lived this transition at a global scale. Julia Arpag is the founder and CEO of Aligned Recruitment. Before she began leading what she calls the greatest team on the planet, Julia spent years recruiting internationally across the US, Canada, Asia, and the UK. She has filled hundreds of high stakes roles in everything from tech and product to sales and finance. But what makes Julia a true authority in the recruitment space is her philosophy that she doesn't just hire to fill seats, she hires to drive peak company performance. She is a passionate advocate for her clients, a dedicated wife and mom, and a leader who leads with her faith and her heart. Today, we're going to talk about how Julia moved from the high volume world of international recruiting to building her own specialized agency, how she stays human centric in the fast paced tech world, and will uncover the unique authority X factor that allows her to spot A players where others only see resumes. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelly. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited to talk to you because I'm trying to remember the early days of starting my company. I was working with a coach, and my coach was like, "You have got to connect with Julia." And so I connected with you on LinkedIn, and I have been, I see your posts, and I know a little bit about your story from your LinkedIn content because you do a great job of using your story, your experiences to kind of subtly promote what you do. Like you share that story and then how it helps you serve your clients. So I want to just start out with asking you to define in your own words how you would define your authority X factor, which is kind of like basically how you show up on LinkedIn. Like what was that unique experience that you had and your skill set and how that led you to now serve your clients in the way that you do?
That's a great question, Kelly. And I think you're so right. So, your book captures something that I get asked all the time. People are like, if you just take all the individual elements, it doesn't make a full picture. Like, you really do have to have kind of this undergirding something, the X factor in your language, to bring it all together. So, for me specifically, I would say my X factor is I am extremely bold. So, like you said, I've put it all out there on LinkedIn. Like, I'm very transparent, I'm very open, I'm very honest. There are, of course, things that I keep close to my chest that LinkedIn does not know, but I am very open. And I think that transparency, that boldness, the fact that I am extremely values driven in the way that I live my life and the way that I serve my clients. I'm unabashed about my faith. I'm a Christian. I'm unabashed about my story. I was a foster parent for 4.5 years. That really shaped a lot of who I am and how I show up. I'm a wife and a mom first. I have two little boys who are 2 and 5, and I absolutely do not shy away from talking about family and faith on the platform. So I think all of that has allowed me to really attract the right clients, the right teammates, the right candidates. So I would say, honestly, my boldness is my X factor in general.
Yeah, yeah. I love that because in seeing your content, like, yes, bold for sure. And you tell your story. So I want you to tell a little bit about what led you to start your company, because that is something that you do talk about often on LinkedIn. I feel like I'm like this fangirl of Julia because I see all your content. We've never met personally, but like I see what you post, and so I know a little bit about that journey that you've had, and how
Yeah.
you use that to like. I mean, it encourages people like me, people who are going through hard times in their career. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to just kind of tell a little bit about what led you to start your company in the first place.
I appreciate that, Kelly. So I'm actually going to go back to childhood. I know that's insane, but I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So it was kind of never an option to not lead. Like that was never on the table. Like I was changing diapers by the time I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So I think what's unique for me is that I didn't start a company sooner, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I kind of worked in corporate America for 12 years before I launched Aligned is actually what I think is more shocking than anything else. So I have absolutely loved it. We've been in business for only about 2.5 years, but we're just getting started. Like honestly, I can't overstate what a perfect fit this has been for me. And really what was the tipping point was I had seen so many founders, including founders I'd worked for, who were building businesses in ways that would never align with me and the way I do business, completely neglecting their families, willing to do anything as long as the pay was high enough. And I just knew that I could never start a business that way. So in 2023, I got laid off when I was 5 weeks postpartum with my second son. And I was super fortunate. I actually got several job offers right off the bat. I literally got 6 job offers within 2 weeks. So, I really seriously considered, do I just take another W-2 job? That's probably the passively least resistant, it's the easiest.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about all of those founders I'd watched, especially in tech. I've been recruiting in tech startups for several years, and I was like, "Man, I know there's another way. I know there's another way to be a founder, and I know that I can figure it out, and I know that I can do it." And I know that if I just got 6 job offers in 2 weeks, surely some of them would like to be my clients, and I can capitalize on this momentum of this moment. So that really is what made me make the decision. I was like, "A, let me try this," right? What's the worst thing that happens? I have to pack it up and get a W-2. Okay, fine, but at least I'll know if I try. And then the fact that it took off so quickly and I haven't had to consider that has been such a blessing.
Yeah. 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 So that was part of why my business coach had said, you've got to connect with Julia, because I was laid off in 2024. And that's what led me to start my company. And then just seeing your posts and like hearing, just the confidence in it, and just the the success that you've had. And I know not every day is like sunshine and roses. I know that now on this side of starting a company, but like you've had just amazing success, and just you're killing it, right? Like, so, just watching you kind of go through that, has been really encouraging to me. I was like, I was never going to ever start a company. That was never something that was on my mind, and yet, having done it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I should have been doing," right? Like, this makes sense to me
Mhm.
now. But I think
Mhm.
there's so many people who, spend their whole career doing what I call being the person behind the person. They're like hiding behind the scenes. They're hiding, I mean, maybe not intentionally, but just, they're just comfortable being supporting somebody else instead of taking that leap of faith. And you and I
Mhm.
both kind of just got shoved off the ledge. But
Mhm.
so I wanted to start with just that journey, just because I know it from your content, like I said. But so tell me about aligned recruitment. So I imagine then your roles in corporate were, you were working in HR, recruiting, that kind of thing before you started this.
Yes, I've been working in recruitment honestly since 2014.
Okay.
My initial experience of recruitment was as an admissions counselor. So I was recruiting 17-year-olds to attend this little tiny liberal arts college in upstate New York. So if you can do that, you can do anything. So then my husband and I moved down to Atlanta a couple years later, and that's when I moved into corporate recruitment. So
Okay.
started recruiting for tech companies, for nonprofits, for a whole different swath of companies. And the most recent job I held, the one where I was laid off at 5 weeks postpartum, that was where I got to mostly partner with tech startups. And that's where I was like, oh, this is so fun. I love the sense of urgency. I love the kind of like early stage excitement. And tech is such an interesting space. Like obviously AI has blown up these last couple years. So even over the
Yeah.
2.5 years I've been running the firm, tech looks so different than it did just a short while ago. So all of that has been super exciting for me. But yes, I worked in recruitment for quite a while before I started the company.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so now you work with, is it like tech specifically that you work with for recruiting, or are there other industries that you serve as well?
No, we only work with tech startups. I have
Okay.
had a couple companies come to me and say, "Hey, I know you don't specialize in what I do, but I really want you to work for me. Can you please just like try?" So if it is honestly, like a lot of it comes down to values. Like I said, I have literally refunded clients who I came to understand we were not values aligned. So that is a hard and fast no for me. But if you're not in tech, but we are values aligned, then yes, I have made some exceptions. But for the most part, we do focus specifically on hiring for tech startups, and we hire across their teams. So we hire for engineering, marketing, sales, operations. We do it all.
Nice. So take me back to like those first few days of starting Aligned. How did you approach going from, working in corporate, like you weren't having to be, I wouldn't imagine you didn't have to be very public facing, very vocal on social media or like any of that stuff, right? Like other than maybe for the company, but not for like yourself. So how did you switch from being working in corporate to like starting to build your platform? Because that platform that you have, like I see it and I know that you are really good at showing up on LinkedIn and telling your story. So how did you kind of, I don't know, face that transition in your personal brand in those early days?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, I had literally never worked in sales a day of my life. I had sold nothing to anyone ever. So, my first Google search was someone I had seen on LinkedIn who has done a phenomenal job of building his platform. His name is Toby Oluwole. So, anyone listening in on this, let's definitely throw his stuff in the show notes because he was transformative. He still is transformative. So, what he helped me learn to do was storytell. Like you keep
Mm.
referencing that specific phrase, which is awesome because that's what I'm going for. So I'm glad to hear that's what's coming across.
Yeah.
But essentially on LinkedIn, you grow if you can tell a good story and connect to something that your audience cares about. So I'm learning how to do that. That really is the motion of what I'm trying to put out on LinkedIn. So that was pivotal. That was one of the very first things I did was take that course and learn how to do that. And then the second thing I did was, again, all of those job offers I got, I reached back out and said, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks. But would you like to basically get to have me on your team, but in this capacity as an agency owner?"
Ah.
So it was the 1-2 punch of number one, just like putting it out there publicly for anyone to see, kind of like my story, my journey, what I was starting to build. And then secondly, circling back to those opportunities and kind of moving on from there. But actually, our first official client was someone who hadn't offered me a job. I had recruited for him in the past. He slid into my DMs on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, do you know of any tech recruitment firms who can help us hire some engineers?" We hadn't even officially decided to launch yet, but when I got that DM, I responded and said, "Yep, I actually just started a firm. Let's talk." And like the next day opened up our LLC. So that's what was really cool for me was I just saw there is potential here, there is opportunity here, and I'd way rather try and fail than not try and automatically fail because I never tried.
Right, right. That's such a great story. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask you was if you have seen results from your LinkedIn content, and so that was something that was happening. You had somebody reach out to you before you were even doing much for LinkedIn content. You didn't even know what you were doing
Yeah.
for a company yet. So how else are you like? What are the other results you're seeing from that content that you put out there? Because I see it as more of just like I see I just am hearing your story. Like I'm into you, right? But like how are other companies kind of perceiving that and reaching out to you?
Yeah, great question. So it's actually a 1-2 punch. So I view content as marketing. Like it's just here. You're slowly getting a drip campaign, like you said, of who I am, my philosophy, my story, my team successes, the ways that we're delivering for our clients. Like you're seeing that. So when you're ready to hire, I'm the one you're going to think of. Like you're going to slide into my DMs and we're going to move forward. But I'm also doing a lot of direct sales as well. So anyone who engages with my content who's in my ICP, my ideal client profile. So again, leaders at tech companies, I slide into their DMs and I go, "Hey, thanks so much for engaging with my content. So good to see you on
Mm.
here. How's it going at blank company?" So that's one motion I run every single day. I max out my LinkedIn connections every single week. And again, I'm sending them out to people in my ICP. And when they accept, I go, "Thanks so much for connecting. Looks like you're killing it at blah, blah, blah company. How's it going over there?" And then the third category is anyone who views my profile. I was like, I know. That's yeah. The third category is anyone who views my profile. I'll send them a connection request again if they're in my ICP, and we'll start the conversation from there. So it's a combination of the marketing motion of posting every day and then the sales motion of actively outbounding.
Do you post is it 5 days a week that you're posting?
Mhm,
Wow. Wow, that's great. I usually encourage people, to do 2 to 3 times a week because I think a lot of people, it's like that's a lot for people, but 5 days a
mhm.
week that's even better. That's amazing. So having never been in sales before or never doing sales, you really just dove right in.
Percent. I mean, if you want to build a business, you work in sales, like period. Like you just have to either you learn how to sell or you go out of business. Those are literally your two options. So I was like,
Yeah.
I would prefer to learn how to sell. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to do.
That's amazing. What else are you doing then other than LinkedIn? How else are you reaching your target audience?
That's it.
That's it. Well,
That's
and
it.
for what you
I've played
do, LinkedIn is like a fantastic platform, I imagine.
That's correct. Yes. I've tried email marketing, of course. Like I'm going to try every avenue and see what works. But email open and response rates are at an all-time low, especially because most people are using AI to write their emails and it's just noisy. So I think it's because of that personal connection, that story, that like human to human interaction that has really made LinkedIn such a more powerful platform. And yeah, that is where every single person in my ICP hangs out. That is where every single candidate that my team is going to DM for opportunities hangs out. So it just makes perfect sense for me to just optimize my time and make sure that I'm being as ruthless as possible with getting a high ROI in my time for me to focus there.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so that's amazing. I love that. Like, okay, I'm gonna take the Julia approach now on LinkedIn. I show up regularly on LinkedIn, but I think I'm missing 2 of the 3 pieces that you mentioned. So I'm like, okay, I have some notes for myself, things to
Yes,
do.
take it, do it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So tell me about you had that person that reached out to you originally that you kind of were like, okay, this is a sign. I need to start going down this path. How did you decide what you were offering and how you were packaging it? Because that's another thing that I think, not having ever run an agency before or having your own company, that was another learning curve I'm sure you had to go through. So how did you approach that?
Yeah, Kelly, if I write a book, it'll be called Learning Curve. Every single thing I've done, I've just made it up. I've been like, okay, guess we're figuring this out now. So, yes, it was a huge learning curve. I was very fortunate that at the company that laid me off when I was 5 weeks postpartum, I actually got to go to a conference where I was tabling with them. So they did kind of read me into like, this is the sales pitch. These are the different packages that we offer. This is how to kind of present our services. So I had like 3 days of sales experience. So I did have that. And essentially that gave me a sense of one option. So they worked only on retainer. So that helped me to build out our retainer offering as an agency. And then honestly, I just kind of figured out the other ways to package recruitment services and just added those as I learned how to package them and learned how to pitch them. So now we offer 3 options. We offer a retainer, we offer 25% of the base salary due upon whenever the candidate starts, and then we offer a container. So it's a kind of a combination of contingent, which is the 25% base, and then retainer. And that's 20% half due upfront, half due at the end. So that all came from trial and error. That came from conversations with other people in the industry. That came from the first 3 months I was scaling the company. I hired an executive coach who knew the recruitment space really well. And
Mm,
she helped me kind of figure out what makes the most sense and how do we package. And then in terms of landing on my niche of tech recruitment, again, I had done it for years before. I really enjoyed it. I knew there was a ton of opportunity there. And I really, really like the motion of being a strategic partner to my clients as opposed to just chucking resumes over the fence and hoping something lands. So if I get to work with a tech startup who is too small to have their own internal recruitment team, but they do have roles coming open on engineering and marketing and sales, I get to step in and my team can support them on all of it. And that's way more fun to me, again, than just like we only recruit data analysts and I just fill this little tiny hole in each of the companies that I work with versus getting to be a long-term strategic partner.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so coaching, you talked about taking a course, hiring an executive coach. What other kind of guidance have you had during this last 2.5 years?
So much. My one of my favorite quotes in the entire world is from Zig Ziglar. He says, "If you refuse to learn, no one can help you. If you're determined to learn, no one can stop you." So
Mm,
my number one activity is getting coaching, reading books, listening to podcasts. Like that is huge. That is huge for me. So I've gotten coaching from several people. So lots of people in the recruitment industry, people outside of it, right? Toby, the guy whose course I took, is not at all in recruitment. So I've just taken wisdom from wherever I can find it. I love Zig Ziglar. He's one of my favorite kind of leaders in the sales space. May he rest in peace. So I read a ton of his books. I listen to the podcast that his son started, kind of about him and his teachings. So it is super important to me to be continually leveling up. Something I did about 2 years ago was I recorded myself saying a bunch of affirmations that really resonated with me, and I play that every single morning. I do a lot of just executive leadership coaching. I'm in a mastermind right now that is for Christian executive leaders. So I'm really never not learning something. I'm never not getting coaching. I'm never not reading a ton of books. I'm never not leveling up and really trying to be whatever the next level is, trying to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you've said many times I was laid off 5 weeks postpartum. Like, I keep hearing the 5 weeks postpartum. Um, and I mean, just your story is just incredible to me that, like, being laid off, having that experience myself is horribly humbling. It was for me, it was, like, how could this happen to me? Like, I am, such a hard worker, and like, I still am going through like a lot of like emotional stuff over that. And it's just I think of the company that let you go. It's like, what in the world were they thinking? And I love that part of the story is like it was their loss, right? Like it's really like it was their loss, and look what they lost. Like you're just doing amazing things and you had so much potential, and it doesn't really matter how much potential you have. The people that are in charge don't always see it and don't always appreciate it, right? For what it is. So,
What was interesting about that story, honestly, that really softened the blow for me was the founder called me and he was like, "I know this is such a bad look to lay off a 5-week postpartum mom." Like, and this is before he knew that I was about to blow up the story all over LinkedIn, so the whole world would know that he did that. But he was thankfully very transparent with me and he was like, "We are literally out of money. Like, I haven't paid myself in months. You are the last person I'm laying off. Like, everyone else is gone, the clients are gone, the money's gone. There's truly no money to pay you." So that was helpful that he was
yeah.
very clear, like, this could not be less performance related. So that was very encouraging. And then again, it really softened the blow that I had those opportunities to land on if I wanted them right off the bat. I
Yeah.
actually said yes to one of them because I was terrified. I was
Yeah.
like, let me take a
Yeah.
W-2 job and let me work just part time, opening up my own agency. So I had a soft landing, which was such a blessing. But then, yes, to your point, it really did help to kind of climb back up out of the layoff just to have the quick success of starting the agency and having it take off so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that it's nice to hear that side of the story as well because I mean, yeah, like in some cases, it's like you don't really take it personally. It's like they didn't have much of
Hmm.
a choice, and running an
Yeah.
agency now, that like if times are hard, like you have to make hard decisions, and that's a part of
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's good to hear all of that. Well, so one of the questions that I ask everyone is if you were to look back at your day one you, so like long before you started your company, early days in your career, your day one you, what now, if you look back, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you have learned now going through the learning curve, the title of your book?
Exactly. So I think about this all the time. And I actually thought about that then. So when my husband and I moved to Atlanta, I worked in this horrible little windowless office in Midtown Atlanta. It took me an hour and a half to get there. If I wasn't there at 9 o'clock on the dot, I would literally get a phone call from my manager, like, "Where are you?" It was everything you hear about toxic, horrible in office leadership, like every single stereotype, check, 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 check. And so I put up a sign in my office based on a Bible verse that says, "She who is faithful with little will be given much." Where I was like, right now, you make 50K a year, you have a horrible boss, you have a terrible little windowless hovel that you have to do all your work from every day. And I'm a very loud talker. So I was on the phone all day long with candidates, and my boss was like, "You need to be quiet." So she put a sign on my computer that literally said, "Shh." I'm not joking. It said SHH. I'm not joking. So it was every stereotype of like a horrible, horrible, horrible job and horrible, horrible, horrible leadership. That quote is the same thing I would go back and say to myself now. Like, where you are right now sucks. Actively, objectively, no one's pretending this job doesn't suck. If you're faithful in this job and if you do the best you can, and if you're a good steward of what you've been given in this season, you will elevate yourself to higher levels and you will get higher levels of access and it will get better. But you've got to stay the course. You've got to work hard. You've got to put in the time now and it will pay off in the future. So, luckily, 28-year-old me already had that insight and I knew this wasn't forever. And I knew I just had to kind of like put on my big girl pants and handle it with what I had at the moment. And honestly, I am seeing the fruit of that now. And I know I'll keep seeing the fruit of that. Like, I know that this is not the peak. I know that we're going to keep growing. So, I think I was already on the right path back when I had that sign up for myself in my office.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Well, Julia, where can people who well, we know LinkedIn, right? But, where can people who are listening, or watching learn more about you, connect with you online other than, I mean, we know LinkedIn, right? But what are other ways that people can find out more about you?
Yes, great question. So I'm actually the only Julia Arpag on LinkedIn. So it's going to be super easy for people to find me. So that's the good news. Secondly, my website, alignedrecruitment.com. So we have a ton of success stories there, testimonials from recruitment clients of ours. You get to see our whole beautiful and amazing team. They are so, so talented. I'm so grateful. Those are the best two ways to find me, and I'd be more than happy to connect.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your authority X factor with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Kelly. This was so fun.
Thanks for watching. My book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, is now available on Amazon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next week.